A 19-year-old is dead. Another is in hospital after a police-involved shooting in Innisfil. We're being told the 4 officers fired their weapons. Good afternoon. The scene is on Shoreview Drive near Whitecap Drive.
The shooting happened yesterday afternoon. CTV Sean Leathong is on the scene and joins us live with more details. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, the street I'm standing on right now is located at the west end of Lake Simcoe, just on the south side of that west end. You can see that there is still a significant police presence here, the SIU invoking their mandate after this incident, which began at 3 o'clock yesterday. Now, it happened when South Simcoe Police were called for what was said to be a family dispute, and then once on scene, they encountered 2 people. Now, we have some footage from our chopper, which shows where the incident approximately took place at this residence on the driveway. Now, police saying that they encountered 2 people, as many as 4 officers discharged their firearm, and 2 people were hit by those bullets. We know they were transferred to hospital, with one 19-year-old male succumbing to his injuries, another one being transferred to Toronto, still in critical condition at this point. Now, as we see the scene, you can see that there was a significant amount of evidence markers placed as the SIU has taken over this investigation. We've reached out to the SIU for information, and they haven't given us much information at this point. Now, as we look in the area, they had been canvassing today, many people trying to talk to neighbors. We know that police have been canvassing in the area, and we know that the police were wearing body cameras, so they will be looking at that as well as any possible cameras that are on houses to get a clearer picture on just what transpired yesterday afternoon. But the scene remains closed off at this time. Just a little while ago, one woman drove by in a car and said that her family heard what they believe were 2 volleys of 10 shots fired yesterday afternoon, but many neighbors who did not want to appear on camera saying that they weren't exactly sure exactly what the shots were, because you can see in this area it isn't exactly easy to see your neighbor's house, as there's many trees in the area. So we will remain on scene for the time and just try and get more information as we can. We'll try and talk to neighbors, as well as hoping to get more information from the SIU, that is. But for now, I'll have to throw it back to you inside.
Appreciate it, Sean. Thank you. And we have breaking news to share with you this noon hour from Queen's Park. Ontario's Education Minister, Todd Smith, has announced he's leaving politics, effective immediately. Smith has represented Bay of Quinte for nearly 13 years and also previously served as the province's energy minister. He says he has decided to step down and accept a job in the private sector.
In a statement released online, Smith says, in part, "I've spoken to Premier Ford to let him know that I'm resigning my seat and stepping down from my cabinet duties effective immediately, and that I will not be seeking re-election. To my constituents in Bay of Quinte and Prince Edward Hastings, thank you for your trust and support, which I am proud to say has grown significantly in each of the last 4 Ontario elections."
And just a short time ago, Premier Doug Ford released a statement online reading, "From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank Todd for his many years of service to our government, our province, and our party. He leaves politics with a record that he can be incredibly proud of, including and especially fixing the previous government's energy policies and bringing electricity prices down for hardworking families and businesses. Todd will always be a friend, and I can't wait to watch his every success as he starts this next chapter of his life."
Todd Smith took this portfolio 2 months ago. He's making announcements yesterday. My guess is whatever this opportunity is, it's a very large and significant opportunity, probably something he couldn't say no to, and it came up very fast. And that, probably was a dilemma for him to say, gosh, do I leave politics? As he loved the battle, but, sometimes good jobs can't turn your back on.
The Premier is now tasked with finding a new Minister of Education. We're monitoring this story, and we'll certainly have more tonight at 5 and 6.
Coming up this half hour, residents from Jasper, Alberta are returning home today after a wildfire destroyed several homes.
But here at home, let's take a live look outside. Friday has arrived, and really a nice start to the day, but we are anticipating unsettled weather today and also through into the weekend. Let's bring in CTV's Jessica Smith for all we need to know as we embark on another summer weekend. Jess.
It will be warm, really humid out there, but we are watching this system. It's been really slow moving over the past couple of days. We're seeing the leading edge starting to make its way in, but it's going to take some time for it to get to us here in the GTA. So some good news if you have outdoor plans or maybe you want to head out towards the CNE. Temperature-wise, it's still quite nice. We're sitting in that kind of mid-20 range, but it already feels into the 30s, and that's not getting any better as we head in towards that kind of midpoint of our day. The good news is the bulk of the rain holds off until later on into the late afternoon, early evening. So if you want to get outside, After watching the noon show, you'll have a great forecast to do so. We're sitting at 24 through the islands, 25 through Pearson, but it feels into the 30s. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. We'll break down the system as it makes its way into the GTA. But right now, I'll send things back over to Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. We're monitoring a precarious situation near Kensington Market. Police have closed Dundas Street near Augusta because of a leaning building. Officials say it has the potential to collapse. Authorities were first notified about the building at 10 this morning. Toronto Fire says the front of the two-story structure has been compromised and is leaning toward the sidewalk and Dundas Street. No injuries have been reported. Crews have evacuated the building, and TTC service has also been impacted by this situation.
And take a look at this. A massive water main break in Montreal this morning sent water gushing several meters into the air and flooded streets and basements near the Jacques Cartier Bridge. More than 13,000 hydro customers lost power, and Montreal's mayor says some residents were told to evacuate their homes. Officials say the water is drinking water and doesn't pose a health hazard. Repairs are expected to take several hours.
Well, there's nothing like a water skiing pyramid to tell you the Canadian National Exhibition is back.
It is opening day at the CNE.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I do officially declare the CNE open. Let's go!
The confetti has been blasted, and that was Olympic skateboarder Annie McDonald who got things started during an opening ceremony this morning. Also known as the X, the end of summer event on Toronto's waterfront will attract hundreds of thousands of visitors over the next 2.5 weeks. There are midway rides, fair games, musical and other performances, art displays, and a big signature part of it is, of course, the food. It's also a big boost for our city and for all the people who work at the X.
Last year, with that 1.6 million people, they spent in the GTA $210 million. The economic impact to the province was $143 million, to the city was $113 million, $54 million in tax revenue. We hire over 5,000 people. 78% of our employees are from ethnically diverse backgrounds. We hire anywhere from 15 to 21% of our employees who are persons who identify with disabilities.
There are no road closures associated with the event, but expect traffic to be busier in the area. Also, Metrolink says some express trains will stop at Exhibition Station to deal with the influx of passengers. The CNE runs from today through to September 2nd.
In other news, a motorcyclist is dead after a crash in Mississauga. Peel police say a motorcycle collided with another vehicle just after 2 this morning near Ridgeway and Odyssey Drive. Paramedics say the motorcycle rider was taken to hospital without vital signs and pronounced dead a short time later. No word yet on what led to the crash. Now to the troubling new allegations that the people around Matthew Perry preyed on him as he was battling drug dependency.
The allegations come almost 10 months after the Friends star was found unresponsive in his pool. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
Federal prosecutors in Los Angeles charged 5 people in connection with the death of actor Matthew Perry, part of an underground criminal network. 2 doctors, even Perry's personal assistant, arrested, along with an alleged drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen. The suspects using coded language and text messages calling the drug Dr. Pepper.
They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways. In the end, these defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being.
Court records allege Dr. Salvador Plasencia, known as Dr. P, sold Perry 20 vials of ketamine for $55,000, writing in a text, "I wonder how much this moron will pay. Let's find out." The indictment alleges Dr. P showed Perry's assistant how to inject the actor with ketamine, including on the last day of the actor's life. The drug supplied, say authorities, by the so-called Ketamine Queen.
The ketamine supplied by Sangha would ultimately be the dose that took Matthew Perry's life. Songha knew that the ketamine she supplied could be deadly.
Perry was found floating face down in a hot tub at his LA home last October. An autopsy revealed he died of a ketamine overdose and subsequent drowning. He'd been treated professionally with the drug for depression and anxiety, but the medical examiner concluded the drug in his system was not from therapy. Best known for playing Chandler Bing on Friends, Perry spoke about his fame and battle with addiction in a brutally honest memoir, telling ABC how desperate he'd become.
55 Vicodin a day, which is where I was.
55.
Yeah.
If convicted, Dr. Placentia and the ketamine queen could face life in prison, and the three co-conspirators up to 25 years. Perry's family said in a statement they're heartbroken, but welcome the charges and hope that justice will take its course. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
Elnaz Hashtamiri's ex-boyfriend, who's charged with first-degree murder in her death, wants another chance at bail. Mohammed Lilo, 37, is accused of being the mastermind in the disappearance and presumed death of Hashtamiri, who was last seen when she was reportedly forcibly removed from a Wasaga Beach home in January of 2022 and then thrown into an SUV. A hearing scheduled for yesterday didn't go ahead because there was no interpreter and has been rescheduled for next month.
A Toronto man has been arrested in a voyeurism investigation at a Burlington drugstore. 37-year-old Mohammed Abdals El Sheikh is charged with 7 counts of voyeurism and 1 count of criminal harassment. Police say upskirt pictures were taken at a Shoppers Drug Mart on New Street in Burlington. At least 7 separate incidents took place between June 25th and August 7th. Investigators are encouraging anyone with information to come forward.
To Alberta now, where Jasper residents are getting the chance to return home for the first time since a wildfire devastated the town 3 weeks ago.
CTV's Kathy Lee is following all the latest developments from the outskirts of Jasper.
It's going to be an emotional day for Jasperites because today is the first time in more than 3 weeks they're going to be able to go back home and see the destruction for themselves. There were bus tours earlier, however, it's a little bit different. They weren't allowed to get off the bus. So this is the first opportunity for them to go to their homes, to their businesses, and check out the devastation firsthand. They're going to be able to touch the ground. They're going to be able to smell the air, and it's going to be a really tough day. This is the only way to get into Jasper. This is Highway 16 on the east side. And RCMP have been here. They're checking for IDs to make sure that only Jasper residents are allowed in. This road opened at 7 o'clock this morning. So today is really just for the residents. Nobody else is allowed in, and it's really to give them time to grieve privately, to be able to see what damages there may be to their homes, to their businesses, and to have that moment to themselves. Jasper residents were advised of things that they can expect when they're in the town. For instance, the air quality could be compromised because of the wildfire that is still raging out of control, even though the town is safe. They may need N95 masks because it could get really smoky, but not just from the smoke. There is a hazard with the chemicals that could still be coming off the buildings from the burned plastics, from the burned metals, and that could bother some people. So there is, again, an advice to bring an N95 mask in there. I've been speaking to people who were lined up earlier this morning in their vehicles, Jasperites waiting to get in, and even though there is a sense of nervousness and anxiousness, I'm really feeling today that there's also a sense of eagerness. It's time. It's time to get in there, to come face to face with what's happened and to grieve it, and let's move on. As a community, there's only 5,000 residents in Jasper. Everyone is pretty tight-knit. And this isn't a you lost your home, you lost your business versus the people who didn't. It's really about the entire community coming together to help each other and to rebuild Jasper to its former glory. And that is certainly what I'm hearing today. Kathy Lee, CTV News, near Jasper, Alberta.
We are breaking news this noon hour out of the province's top court, which has upheld musician Jacob Hogarth's sexual assault conviction after he filed an appeal. The former Headley frontman was found guilty in 2022 of sexually assaulting an Ottawa woman. He was sentenced to 5 years behind bars, but was released on bail pending his appeal. His lawyers claim the trial judge erred by admitting evidence from a psychologist on the neurobiology of trauma. The Crown says the defense didn't challenge that evidence during cross-examination and had asked for Hogarth's appeal to be dismissed. So his conviction has been upheld.
Ottawa's mayor says he won't attend Capitol Pride events this month after a decision from organizers that he says caused significant hurt and distress for many members of the Jewish community. Mark Sutcliffe said he's disappointed with the stance by Capitol Pride organizers who say they will, quote, recognize the ongoing genocide in Gaza at all signature events. The group also called for a ceasefire and the release of all hostages. The mayor said the decision makes many feel they aren't welcome to participate, and he would take part in related events, but none organized by Capitol Pride. Those events get underway this weekend with a parade a week from Sunday.
Speaking of Gaza, at least 2 people are dead after an Israeli airstrike in the territory. This is according to Palestinian authorities. The strike comes as indirect ceasefire talks continue in Qatar. Israel has ordered fresh evacuations in Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah, saying forces are responding to rocket fire from those areas. According to Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry, more than 40,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's military response to the October 7th attacks. That figure doesn't distinguish between civilians and combatants.
The Ukrainian military brigade has released video footage claiming to show the first day of Ukraine's incursion into the Russian region of Kursk. The video published on Facebook shows a destroyed border point and men believed to be Russian soldiers surrendering. The date the video was filmed has not been independently verified. Kyiv's surge into Russia caught Moscow by surprise, with Ukrainian forces seizing scores of villages, taking hundreds of prisoners, and forcing thousands of civilians to flee. In nearly a week of fighting, Russian troops are still struggling to drive the Ukrainians out. Kyiv says the operation gives it leverage in peace talks to stop Russia's ongoing invasion.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to lay out new campaign promises on the economy today in the battleground state of North Carolina.
This comes after a joint appearance with U.S. President Joe Biden Thursday at an event on drug prices, their first since he dropped out of the race.
Few leaders in our nation have done more on so many issues, including to expand access to affordable health care than Joe Biden. And today we take the next step, thank you, Joe, forward in our fight.
Biden and Harris were highlighting the results of a law he'd signed allowing the U.S. Medicare system to negotiate on drug prices. But the event also saw the pair take aim at their Republican opponents.
You may have heard about the MAGA Republican Project 2025 plan. They want to repeal Medicare's power to negotiate drug prices. Let Big Pharma back to charge them whatever they want. Let me tell you what our Project 2025 is. Beat the hell out of them.
As Kamala Harris and Donald Trump face off in the presidential debate and the election as well, Trump gave a speech attacking his new opponent on her handling of issues under the current administration.
She cast the tie-breaking votes that caused record inflation. She cast the votes. She's trying to blame Biden, as you know. So it was Biden, but I'm going to do a better job. But it was her. And if she wants to do a better job, she's still got 5 months left, right? But she can't do a better job because she doesn't know how to. And she's of a place in life where she wouldn't know what a better job is.
While Trump and Harris have agreed on at least one debate next month, their vice presidential running mates, Senator J.D. Vance and Governor Tim Walz, have scheduled their own head-to-head in October.
Hurricane Ernesto has strengthened to a Category 2 storm and is now taking aim at Bermuda. Ernesto has already brought damaging winds, heavy rain, and flooding to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. About half of Puerto Rico had no power yesterday. The U.S. eastern seaboard is bracing for potential impacts in the coming days, as are parts of Atlantic Canada.
At-risk groups have been warned by Toronto Public Health to protect themselves against Mpox by getting vaccinated.
But getting an appointment might not be so easy in the city. CTV's Natalie Johnson explains.
2 days after urging eligible residents to get vaccinated against Mpox, Torontonians are unable to book an immunization appointment with Toronto Public Health. No more available time slots, according to the website, though it's unclear why. We are working toward ramping up more appointments for later next week, Toronto Public Health told CTV News in a statement. We will have more details to share early next week and will continue to adapt our response accordingly.
Locally, I think it's extremely important that we care for the population that is disproportionately impacted by this, and that means lowering barriers, reducing stigma, and ensuring anyone who has risk factors for Mpox has access to the vaccine.
The country's chief public health officer stressed that there is enough vaccine for high-risk groups.
Currently, most of our cases are reported from gay, bisexual, and men who have sex with men. That population and our community organizations have been extremely helpful in the response itself, and for that population and the current epidemiology, we have sufficient vaccines on hand.
Toronto Public Health is monitoring about 100 cases of Mpox locally. The World Health Organization yesterday declared Mpox a public health emergency amid surging cases of the virus in Africa, where there is concern that a new strain could be more contagious and cause more severe illness.
We have not yet seen the new form of this, which is the new clade of disease that's occurring in Africa. We have not seen a case yet here in Canada. That's a good thing, but we have to be vigilant.
Case counts in Toronto increased in late June and July following major events and festivals in the city. The highest concentration of Mpox cases is among residents of the downtown core. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
We turn to more breaking news this noon hour. We go to Dundas Street West near Kensington Market, and look at this, a precarious situation.
A building is teetering forward and in danger of collapse. CTV's John Musselman is at the scene with the very latest on this. John, a lot of concern there.
Yeah, there sure is, Nathan. We just got on the scene a few minutes ago. I'll let Pat sort of show you what's happening here. It's the north side of Dundas, just east of Denison Avenue. You can see that building looks like it's leaning towards the street, possibly two buildings. What we're hearing from Toronto Fire is that this is a massive structural failure, especially of the roof. Now, this was noticed. There's a condo being built next door. It looks like some construction workers noticed there's an issue on that roof. And we're told before it was evacuated, there were people in the adjacent buildings and that building. Everybody has been brought out safely. What's happening now is they're turning off the gas and the hydro connected to all of those buildings so they determine what the next step is here. Of course, it's caused some major traffic problems as well as the streetcar, which is now on hold through this area. Now, it may have to be brought down in a controlled demolition, we're being told. They're still trying to assess the situation here, Michelle and Nathan, so we're just waiting to get some more details from the fire chief on this situation. But it's creating quite a spectacle. I'll just show Pat. If Pat, can you head over there? You'll see a lot of people have gathered here on the intersection. They've got their cell phones out. Everybody's taking video and pictures of this. It's all quite rather unusual sight to see. Some people told me they were on the streetcar. They were heading towards downtown, and they were looking out the window, and they saw this building leaning forward precariously. So they're quite concerned about it as well. They got off the streetcar, and that's when emergency services all showed up on the scene. So again, we're here on the scene. We're just waiting to hear from the fire chief to get an update on what's happening. As soon as we get more information, we'll let you know and we'll come back to you. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. It is quite the spectacle. Makes you wonder how that happened. Drivers in the GTA may spot a high number of military vehicles on the roads today. Officials say Canadian Armed Forces vehicles and personnel are traveling in larger than usual numbers along major highways across southern and central Ontario. They are taking pre-planned routes, including stretches of our 401 and the 407 to Garrison, Petawawa. The Department of National Defence says the convoys are related to a major field exercise taking place there today through to August 30th. Jess.
Well, not as sunny of a day today, but we are holding on to a ton of that warmth out there, and we will see a daytime high fairly seasonal, but you factor in the humidex and it will feel much warmer than that. So if you're heading down to the CNE, factor in water or one of the fun drinks that they have down there, I am sure. Humidex values into the mid-30s into this afternoon, and then we're watching for the best chance of active weather for us as we head into the early evening. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including what we can expect as we head throughout the weekend. All those details after the break.
All right, first full day of the exhibition opening and the weekend's kicking off, and we're hoping that we don't get too much rain.
I know every single weekend in the summer is precious, right? And there are only so many left. And when you start to hear about rain and potentially cloudy stuff, you start to hear your friends and people altering their plans.
Right.
Hopefully we don't have to too much.
No, and I feel like you'll be okay. The bulk of the rain for the GTA, because we've been watching the system, the leading edge has been moving in quite slowly, but the bulk of this comes in later on this evening, and I think it's from 10 to 10 with the CNE. So if you're going later in the evening, it might be an issue, but for the bulk of the day, if you're heading out to get the fun food, the fun drinks, or the fun rides, you'll be all right. It's just a little cloudy out there. Weather is brought to you by the Prezzer Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. We had some sunshine this morning. It wasn't terrible, but we're seeing some cloud cover move in. It's a bit of a gray kind of midpoint to our day, but we have a southerly wind again keeping us nice and warm. It's extremely humid outside, so keep that in the back of your mind. Although we don't have that brilliant sunshine, it doesn't mean it's any cooler out there, and we're looking at the humidex really becoming an issue as we head into the afternoon. So again, enjoy the outside plants, just make sure you're prepping yourself accordingly with hydration and sun protection, because the UV index, even with the clouds, is still super high. Sitting at 25 right now, it feels like 31. We're cooling down a little in northern Ontario, but they were still experiencing some heat. There's still some heat warnings in place along that border with Quebec, kind of to the north and east of us. For us here in southern Ontario, it is a fairly seasonal day, but when you factor in the humidex, it will be really warm. This afternoon, that 25 will feel close to the mid-30s, so again, it is one of those days you just want to get out, but prepare accordingly when it comes to just having water and breaks in the shade and breaks in air conditioning. As we head in towards the evening, the rain moves in. This system has been kind of sitting just west of us for a while, and it will slowly push its way in as we head through the kind of early evening and then through the overnight off and on. So by no means is it a wash, but we have all that cloud cover that's moved in, and it's going to trap some of that heat. The bulk of this system is going to primarily affect cottage country as we head in towards the weekend, but we're still going to see it here in southern Ontario. We've seen it kind of start to push in. It moves relatively slowly as we head throughout the evening into the day tomorrow and for our Sunday as well. Timing everything out, it's not so bad right now. We're just looking at a ton of cloud cover. Again, it's more so cottage country that gets the brunt of it to start. As we head in towards our evening, for us, a lot of this comes in between about 7 and 8 p.m. And then we're just looking at pockets of showers off and on overnight. Nothing super intense. Starting off our Saturday, a little sunshine, and then the cloud cover starts to push in. And then we're just looking at scattered showers. Again, cottage country getting the bulk of it. For us here in the GTA, we get a bit of a break into the early part of our Saturday evening, and then as we head into Sunday, a little more cloud cover. And again, the system, you can see the rotation just kind of sits over us as we head throughout the weekend. So the heavier rain again is a little further north up towards the cottage country area. For the GTA, it's just spotty showers and mostly just a couple of clouds. Seasonal weather before you factor in the humidex throughout the weekend. Getting into Monday, the bulk of the rain moves out, the cloud cover lifts, so does a lot of the heat. And although it is a little below seasonal, it will be sunny heading into next week. Nathan.
All right. Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
If you have a prepaid credit card, we have a warning. It may not be accepted everywhere that you'd like to use it. CTV's Pat Foran has the details.
Many people use prepaid or secured credit cards to avoid racking up debt. But if you are relying on one to book a flight, a stay in a hotel, or even to rent a car, there could be a problem.
Yeah, you should know some companies will refuse to accept them. CTV's Pat Foran explains.
I don't understand why they couldn't take the card in the first place.
Brian Barnard of Etobicoke recently had to rent a car when his vehicle broke down. He decided to rent one through Uber and was able to make a payment of $493 with a prepaid credit card. But when he went to pick up the car, the rental agency said he needed to leave a security deposit and prepaid credit cards were not allowed.
It was frustrating to go all the way there and then to be told that you won't take my form of payment.
The car rental company said, "We do not accept prepaid credit cards for security deposits. It is our policy that we cannot release a vehicle to a client who does not possess a major credit card in their name." Even more frustrating than not getting the car, Uber denied giving Barnard a refund.
I paid for a rental that I didn't get, and I'm just to accept the fact that that money's gone.
There can be some risks to using prepaid credit cards.
Rewards Canada, which reviews credit cards and loyalty programs, says with prepaid credit cards, you only spend what has been loaded onto the card. You're not able to carry a balance. You can avoid falling into debt, but using one won't rebuild your credit history. With a secured credit card, an initial deposit is required. You can use it like a traditional credit card. It does allow you to borrow and pay later, and it can help rebuild your credit history. With a prepaid card, you may have trouble booking a hotel room or renting a car if security deposits are required. They also don't offer the protections of a traditional credit card.
For some purchases, you don't want to use prepaid cards because you're not as secure as using a regular credit card.
After trying for more than a month to get his money back, CTV News reached out to Uber on Barnard's behalf. The company apologized for the inconvenience and gave him a full refund.
Thank you for all your help, CTV. It was great. Thank you. I'm so relieved that I got our money back.
If you are a parent with a child in daycare, jot down January 1st in your calendar.
That's when the province is lowering the cap on daily fees, but it's nowhere near the $10 a day that's been promised. Not yet, anyways. CTV's Janice Golding is following the story.
While the province has not yet met the national $10 a day target for daycare, it says it is taking the next step in lowering childcare fees. A long-awaited new funding structure, which comes into effect on January 1st, 2025, will bring down fees for children 0 to 5 years of age, reducing the cap from $23 a day to a cap of $22, with an average cost of $19 a day. That's a drop of about 50% since the province signed an agreement with the federal government in 2022. Meanwhile, childcare operators participating in the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system, many of whom said they were struggling to keep going under the current structure, will soon be compensated in a way the province says will cover their true costs. The new formula will fund operators based on factors like the number of spaces they operate and the region in which they're located. Existing legacy operators will receive extra money for costs that may exceed that amount, costs that could include the provision of special food or specialized programming. Growth top-ups will also be issued for facilities that create new spaces.
So, it's pretty complex, and the devil will be in the details.
Andrea Hannon, executive director of the Association of Daycare Operators of Ontario, says her organization estimates about 30% of licensed childcare providers are currently facing bankruptcy. And she stresses merely replacing revenue based on fees that were frozen in 2022 will not cover the true cost of providing care, especially given pandemic price freezing.
And then when the province signed the agreement with the federal government in March of 2022, suddenly all childcare fees were frozen. So they were frozen at whatever level you had them at on that date.
The province says it's still calling on the federal government to increase funding for the program so it's sustainable for families throughout the province and to lift some restrictions on new centres opening up. The province has pledged to cut childcare costs to $10 a day by March 2026. Janice Golding, CTV News.
The NBA regular season schedule is out, and it has the Raptors tipping things off at home against the Cleveland Cavaliers October 23rd. This will be the Raptors' 30th season, and it follows a disappointing one that saw them win just 25 games while losing 57. Notable matchups include a November 16th trip to Boston to take on the defending champion Celtics, and the Raptors hosting Hamilton Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder on December 5th.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, emergency room wait times are front and center once again, and we'll take you to the city with some of the longest waits. That's coming your way right after this short break.
For the third time in less than a year, a discount Canadian airline has ceased operations.
BNN Bloomberg's Paul Bagnall has more.
Another Canadian discount air carrier has ceased operations. Canada Jetlines, which flew mainly to sun destinations from Toronto, said yesterday it had halted operations. It called the halt temporary, but also said it has been unable to raise financing necessary to allow it to operate. The company said it pursued, quote, all available financing alternatives. Canada Jetlines said it is trying to assist passengers and advise those who have booked flights to contact their credit card companies for refunds. Over the past year, Lynx Air and Swoop have also stopped flying. An agreement has been reached that, if ratified by unionized workers, will see operations resume at the world's largest copper mine. Workers at the Escondida mine in Chile, owned by BHP Group of Australia, went on strike on Tuesday after failing to reach an agreement with the company on wages. BHP says it has now reached an agreement with union negotiators, and that agreement is expected to be presented to workers today. The Escondida mine produces about 5% of the world's newly mined copper, and a prolonged strike would have likely driven copper prices higher. Here in Canada, a labour outage is possible at Canada's two big railways next week. Both Canadian National Railway and Canadian Pacific Kansas City have said they will lock out unionized workers on Thursday if new agreements with the Teamsters Canada Rail Conference are not reached. Yesterday, Canada's Labour Minister, Stephen McKinnon, rejected CN's request for binding arbitration. And that's the latest in business news. I'm Paul Bagnall at BNN Bloomberg.
The healthcare system continues to struggle post-pandemic, and many experts say emergency room wait times have never been worse.
It's something many people in Ottawa are experiencing, with some of the longest ER wait times in the province. CTV's Sam Hoopt has the details.
If you end up in an Ottawa area emergency room, be prepared to wait. Some visits taking up to
9 hours.
Hospitals in the capital have some of the highest average wait times in Ontario.
Especially when you are in pain and you are worried and you need to see the doctor, it gets even longer. It feels even longer.
Recent data from Health Quality Ontario shows the Queensway Carleton Hospital is tied for having the longest average ER wait times in the province. In June, it took an average of almost 4 hours before patients were assessed. The Ottawa Hospital General Campus saw an average of 3.2 hours, CHEO 3.1, Ottawa Civic Campus saw 2.5 hours, and Montfort 2.2 hours. Queensway Carleton isn't taking the top ranking lightly. Officials say it has been a challenge to meet the needs of the capital's fast-growing population. We have one of the busiest emergency departments with more than 83,000 visits each year. However, we have half the physical space and half the number of bays that other similar EDs have. The hospital has had to be creative to tackle wait times, including converting some spaces into temporary ER beds, and is appealing to the province to expand the emergency department. Though currently holding the title of longest wait times hasn't come as a surprise to patients.
Does that shock you at all?
No.
No, not after.
And that was CTV's Sam Hoopt. Well, it's a lasting tribute to Canadian soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice.
Their children have been presented with education scholarships. CTV's Beth McDonnell has more on the special investment in their future.
From tragedy to triumph, it's a mission at Canada Company, handing out post-secondary and postgraduate scholarships to young people who lost a parent while serving Canada in the armed forces. 23-year-old Serena Lizotte is studying management at Western University and spoke on behalf of the 18 recipients at the ceremony. In 2020, she lost her dad in a workplace accident.
It's an honor to get the scholarship, and it's just incredible to be here with everybody. And the fact that people are respecting and honoring and memorizing the fallen parents is just, it's such a moving thing to be a part of.
Kayla Williams is studying to be a dental hygienist. She was just 2 years old when her dad was killed by a roadside bomb in Afghanistan.
He was not actually supposed to go on this mission. There was someone failed a drug test and he took their place and then never saw him again. But he was always my biggest supporter. All my family tells me that if he was here today, he would. He's so proud of me, always. It's a little overwhelming at first when you get in here, and at the end of it, you just feel so calm and relaxed, and it's nice to actually be able to build those relationships with the fellow recipients.
In all, 287 scholarships have been awarded since the initiative started 17 years ago. This year, the amount increased from $4,000 to $5,000 per student. For Blake Goldring, the founder of Canada Company, which focuses on bridging Canadian society and military communities to support families, the work is uplifting.
Well, I feel very, very pleased about really, this is a movement. This is not about me. This is about
a group of Canadians that really care about other Canadians, because our military members and their families, they're part of the community and they need our support. And today you could see in this packed room a lot of love, a lot of people coming out here to show that we're with you.
Charlene Hatcher is 20 and studies journalism at Toronto Metropolitan University. Her stepdad died by suicide after serving in Afghanistan.
For me to be here today and actually receive an award that recognizes you have gone through a struggle, this in no way repays it, but it's going to help me continue my education. It's going to help me actually get ahead in life and work towards a larger goal.
The scholarship making Hatcher and her co-recipients' future brighter, surrounded by support. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Coming up, if you're not from The Rock, we'll introduce you to Captain Newfoundland. That's after the break.
Now to one of our breaking stories this hour. We want to take you back to Dundas Street West near Kensington Market.
And that's where a building is teetering forward and in danger of collapse. CTV's John Musselman's been talking to area residents about this. John.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, we're on the east side of Dundas now, so you have a better view of the building in question. You can see where it looks like the roof has come down into the building and pushed the walls out. But we did hear some really frightening stories. A woman who was in there at the variety store on the lower level buying lottery tickets when she said she heard some bricks cracking. Now, her husband was out on the sidewalk with the dog. He also noticed a weird noise coming down, and he screamed for his wife to get out. The woman says the store owner also noticed something wasn't right, and he was screaming for everyone to get out of the building. The street remains sealed off here now until they determine what they're going to do. Here is that woman had to tell us just a short time ago.
I was shocked. I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, the house could have fallen on top of me. And I'm alive, thank God. And he told me to stand over there with the dog. The owner of the variety store, the Asian Canadian man, he's yelling at me to move off. He's yelling at the last customer with the 2 drinks to get out, move, like this.
So we just want to reconfirm that no one has been injured here. Everybody was taken out safely. The street is still sealed off. They've disconnected the hydro and the gas. There's city officials here, Toronto Fire. They'll have to determine what they're going to do. It's probably structurally unsound and will likely need to come down. We're just waiting to get more information from Toronto Fire and the City of Toronto. Reporting live on the scene, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you guys.
Thanks, John. We look forward to the update later today. In other news, Captain Newfoundland may not be a household name across Canada just yet.
But a pair of young filmmakers want to change that. CTV's Garrett Berry has the story.
Join the captain now as he explores the outer and inner spaces of life through the magic of television.
His ancestors came from beyond the stars, settling on the lost continent of Atlantis, or, as you might know it, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Captain Newfoundland is the spirit of Newfoundland. He lives in the hearts of all of us.
He saved Viking Leif Erikson from an alien attack, overcoming his enemies with the power of oneness with the universe. He can assume any physical form. At least, that's how the story goes.
Psychedelic is a great word for it.
Captain Newfoundland, who was revealed in the 1980s on the airwaves of local TV station NTV, is now going national in a new telefilm-funded documentary that aims to start shooting next year and premiere in 2026. To a pair of young filmmakers, it's a no-brainer, one of the most distinct local characters created by perhaps the most distinct local media mogul, Jeff Sterling.
He really thought everything is possible here, and that is this really optimistic outlook for our province that we don't always get.
Sterling often filled his late-night NTV airwaves with contemplation of the philosophies of the universe, the metaphysical, the forms, the known and the unknown.
Wildly experimental, bizarre footage, animations layered on top of each other with rock music or pop music playing, and just doing whatever they wanted. They're not what you think of when you think of Newfoundland, and we just want to explore something that is so unique and important.
And of all the great teachings of Captain Newfoundland, there is one that stands above all others. To thine own self be true. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
Ooh, okay.
It's giving Captain Planet. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Just-
Captain Planet. That was such a great show as a kid.
I'm just like
helping the environment.
Right? Today, the environment's going to need some help because the weather's a little sus. But the good news is, as we head in towards, well, the weekend, we won't see brilliant sunshine the whole time, but we won't see rain the entire time either. We're not looking at a washout, is what I mean. So if you want to spend some time outside, you want to play tennis, you want to go golfing, you want to go to the CNE, you want to do literally all of the things that I'm sure people have lined up for these last few weekends of August, it will be beautiful outside. You're just going to have to maybe keep the umbrella handy. That line of showers has been pushing its way in very slowly as we've made our way throughout kind of the evening through the start of our day. Windsor, London, you'll be impacted first. For Toronto, the GTA, this really comes in late afternoon, early evening, and then very spotty in nature. So by no means a downpour, but we are looking at pockets of active weather as we head in towards about 7 p.m. for the GTA. Right now, we're at 25, but it feels like 31, so it's going to be quite humid out there. A relatively light southeasterly or southerly flow to the wind for the majority of the day. Temperature-wise, again, 25 isn't far off the seasonal norm, but it feels well into the 30s as we head throughout the day today, our Saturday, and our Sunday. As that cloud cover lifts, as we head in towards our Monday, it's going to let out some of that heat. So our daytime high, for example, below seasonal on Monday, our overnight low is down to just 12. We should be at 16, maybe 17. So we don't quite get there, but it'll be pretty nice next week.
All right, thank you, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and everyone here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Down. And be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.